Hello and welcome to the demonstrational video on the 2017 Burstner Elegance I920. So we'll walk you around the outside controls and then we'll move on to the inside bits. I'll be happy to answer any questions you've got on the day that you collect or in the interim between now and collection, but I'll run through the main controls and the important functionality of it on this video. So, being an A-class, the bonnet is slightly different to a standard coach belt. The bonnet release catch, however, is in the same place as a coach belt would be, and it's just this little lever here. Pull that down to release it. Just while we're here, we'll cover the blinds. They just come across on a magnetic strip like that. And that is actually the same on the other side, over on that side there, but the windscreen one that pulls down from the top. So that's your blackout blinds for the windscreen and the side windows, and that just clips back into position just there. The bonnet release on this. Sorry, the bonnet release on this is slightly different to standard van. You can see it's sort of it's got a scissor hinge like that. It does have a stay there, but these are quite sturdy. But if it's in windy conditions, just put the stay on because you don't want that coming off, blowing shut. You've got washer fluid, coolant. The brake fluid is filled there. Now you probably need a funnel to get into that. It's just in a bit of an awkward spot. To jump start this, if you ever needed to, there's a little hatch there for the positive terminal. You just need to put a little key into that. It's a bit stiff to open up. So that is your positive terminal, and the earth, just bear with me. Okay, on a standard van, the earth is normally here. You will have to find an alternative earth. I would either be putting it on here or one of the chassis cross members down here, but that's your positive terminal. But you will have to find an alternative for the earth, probably down here. Into the chassis is the best place. So that's the controls underneath the bonnet. Let's just see, you've got your oil filler just there. The dipstick, whether you can see that, is just that with the red nozzle on the end. They are harder to get into, obviously, with the shape of the motorhome. When closing the bonnet catch is just in the centre here, so you need to give it a firm press on the centre here. Don't be tempted to push on the bottom. You need to press it in the centre because that's where the catch is. So moving on around the motorhome then. Just while we're here, I'll show you this because I didn't want to forget later on. When draining the motorhome down of fresh and wastewater, the wastewater drain is just here, so I'll just point it out as we're walking around. It's an electric valve, so you can see there in the middle. In the middle, the valve won't move. In the top, that's going to move a motor to drain open up the tap to drain the waste water down, and that then closes it. You'll hear a motor move, so that's where the drain is for the waste water. And I'll point out where the pipe is underneath, so you know where to park the vehicle when draining it down. So as we move on along, you've got your diesel fuel filler here. You will need the key for that, and I don't think that's the actual engine key. I think it's one of the habitation keys, labelled up Burstner. Yeah. So that's your fuel, not to be confused with water. Okay, so that's your fuel filler. This service locker here, we've got a number of things in it. So to fill the motorhome with fresh water, You take this cap off here, put the hose pipe into there, and you can see that it'll take 120 litres. Inside the drain for this water tank, so if you're going to drain it down for winter use for storage, the drain for this tank is actually inside. I'll come to that when we go inside. As you're filling it, got this handy nozzle there which will redirect any spillage out of the motorhome so it'll spill onto the floor. So that's the spillage flap there. So that's your fresh water. So it is possible to drain it down to 20 litres, so there's a partial drain on it, so that you can travel with a little bit of water, but you're not carrying all that unnecessary weight. As we move along, you've got your 2 leisure batteries. The drain for the boiler and also the pipe work, so all of this pipe work here needs draining down. There's 2 drains for that. You've got these 2 valves here. That is in the closed position, that is in the open position, so they do need to be drained down. It's important that they get drained because it drains all the excess piping that's associated with the boiler and all the plumbing basically. So that's in the drain position. I'll leave it like that for now. Another thing here, we have a heat exchanger. What that does is it'll share the heating of the motorhome with the engine coolant, so you can, there's a control for that inside, but basically what that does is it'll use the heating from the motorhome. If you've been on site and you want to set off, it'll warm up the engine, and also vice versa. There is a tap for that which you can isolate just there. I don't know whether you can see it, it's just on top, but just leave that open. And then directly underneath that grey tap, that grey pipe there, is where the waste water would come out once you've opened the valve which I showed you, which is just in the passenger, behind the passenger seat. This is where the mains supply would come in. So with this customer, I said I'd get them a cable. I haven't got one just to hand here where I'm demonstrating, but that's where the mains supply goes into the vehicle. Next one along, we have an external shower point. We've got this shower head here. So the way that works is there's a trigger on the end of there, so when you plug it in, that's what's going to allow water to flow from the end of the shower head. This is handy for dog owners, or if you've been on a walk outside, you want to wash your dirty shoes. So this, it's got a little tab on it there, corresponds to that cutout there. You basically just push that in, and then that's your feed to your shower. And then you've got a tap, hot and cold there, to adjust the temperature. To release that, you just push this collar in, push that collar in like that, and that releases this. So that's the shower head. Working on around the vehicle, we've just got a spare wheel there. Most of the stuff I need to talk about is on the other side. We have the reversing camera, that's where it's mounted, so just make sure that's kept clean. If water gets on that lens, you know, if it's been raining heavily and it's dripping off that lens, you will get a distorted vision. Just need to be aware of that. Once it dries off, it'll clear up. So here we are in the garage then. The toolkit, got toolkit there, the winder for the awning. There is a separate video for operation of the awning which I can send, or if you request it I can send it if you're not familiar with how that operates. But that is the winder for the awning. This winder here is for the corner steadies. So what you do is you put that winder in through this hole here, and it lets a leg down which will steady the rear of the vehicle. It won't level it. Don't try and level it, it's not capable of doing that. It's really just to steady it so that when you're walking around or in high winds, it'll stop it stop the vehicle wobbling on the suspension. The bed will rise and fall. So this is the control for the bed here, and that's the winder for it. So you put that winder onto there, wind the bed up or down, and that's how the bed rises and falls. So in its lowest position, it's easy to get in and out when you're inside the vehicle, but if you raise it up, it gives you more room in the garage. In the garage, you've also got these tie down points. If you just screw those half a turn, you can actually adjust where they are. So they're just anchor points. If you're storing bikes and things, you can anchor them down. So moving on then. So we've got the light there illuminated on the awning. We've got the disposal point for the toilet. So there's an indication on the inside of the motorhome to tell you when the toilet is full. To empty this, you just pull up that handle there, slide this out, and then to empty it, pull that nozzle across, unscrew the cap on the end, and then pour away the waste as you turn it over like that. Pour the waste away. As you're doing so, press this button in here, lets air in as the liquid is going out to stop it sloshing about. This requires the chemical, so you put the chemical into here. To do so, you slide that cover back, open up the valve, put the chemical into here and a little bit of water into the bottom, and that'll treat the toilet waste, turn it into liquid and get rid of all the smells, and allow you to pour it away as a blue liquid. So this has wheels on the bottom of it, and then this handle extends so that you can carry it off to the waste disposal point on the site. So when you're putting this back in, just make sure the handle is clipped back into position, and then that just slides back into its storage compartment. I don't think there's anything in there, that's just storage, so you've got storage through being a double floor. This is the outside barbecue point. It's actually the same sort of fitting as the shower point that I showed you, so it's like a bayonet fitting. You will need the adapter for this. It's like a metal adapter. We may have one in the shop when you collect, but you just literally push that into there, and then this collar slips down, and then you attach the tubing for the gas appliance that you're going to be using outside to that little adapter that goes into the end of there. So that's the outside barbecue point. The bin, I think we repaired the bin for this customer. This has got the refillable gas low system fitted, which is 2 aluminium bottles that can be refilled from the outside of the gas locker. So that's the fill point. So they've got on fuel stations or gas specialists, you literally screw the adapter onto there and fill it. You can't overfill it. I think it only fills to 80%. On these bottles, you've got a dial on the top to tell you what your gas levels are. You've also got a changeover valve here, which will, so let's say for example this bottle was empty, it'll change over to the other valve, to the other bottle, and you can also do that manually by moving this around. To switch the bottles on, it's these taps on top here. So that's showing a full bottle there. So that's the changeover valve. This does have an automatic valve where you can open and close this from inside. You can switch your gas off and on from inside. Not really necessary with this refillable system, but it's got that switch inside. So that's the refillable bottle system. So we move on to the inside of the motorhome. I'll just probably go to let's start at the front. So just with this automatic gearbox, you've got to put your foot on the brake pedal in order for this to engage. You've got neutral in that position. Down here, that switches it to automatic, and it will light up on the dash to tell you that you've selected automatic. To put it into manual mode, you just give it one click across, and then you can go up and down the gears as you wish, and then reverses over to this side and down at the bottom. It's labelled up on there, but it will illuminate on the dash. To swivel the seats around, there's a catch. Just looking for that. Okay, so the swivel mechanism for the seat is this here, and it goes left and right rather than up and down, and that's how you disengage the seat from the driving position. The bed is electric, so this control here is to operate the bed. You do need the seats fully inclined, so to do that it's like a quarter turn on this nozzle here. You can see that. You just turn that and then lie the back of the seat flat, which I'll do now. Okay, so that's the seats in the lowered position to allow you to draw the bed down. So you've just got an up and down switch here basically. So that is your A-class bed drawn down. So that's the bed in the lowest position with the ladder there to gain access. Most people just step up onto this, but it's simply up and down. If you ever get any trouble with the bed not being stuck in the up or low position, there is a method to reset it by pressing 2 up and down both at the same time. I think it's for 10 seconds, and it'll actually reset and allow you to draw the bed up or down. So that's how the bed operates. Just a quick one here, you've got a couple of switches here. That's for your mirrors, that's for your electric mirrors. This is a light that's on the underside of the bed there, that just illuminates that light. This is a fan which will blow underneath the driver's seat. It blows over the radiator, so it just helps heating. So when you first switch the heating on, if you want to blow that into the back of the motorhome, it's just a fan that goes over the radiator. So that's your controls for that. So the table is a leaf table, so you pull it out like that. It is a two-handed job, so I'll just do that now. So what you do with this, you pull it out like that, and then this, if you press it, the middle section, it lifts up to allow you to push these two leaves together to form your larger table. So you just pull these apart, press this down, and then that'll allow you to close the table leaves together. Okay, so in the diner area here, you've got the wastewater tank there, the black one. This is the fresh water tank. You have got access to these should you need it to maybe treat the water. You can put very mild disinfectant like the Milton that is used for babies' bottles, and you can flush that through the system to disinfect it. So this is the tank here. I don't know if you can see this tap here goes down to a switch at the bottom there. So I said that you could drain this down to 20 litres. So what you do is you turn it anti-clockwise and you'll feel it click, and then if you go further again it will drain it completely. So you imagine if that's so I'll turn it right round to closed. Imagine that's a full tank of water. If you turn in this, you feel it just click as it's done there. That'll drain this down to 20 litres. If you then take it further, it will completely drain the fresh water tank down. Really important that you do that in winter, as with the valves I showed you how to drain those down outside on that service locker. They must be drained. This must be drained. Also open up all your taps, so the kitchen tap, the bathroom tap and the shower. What that does is it lets air in as the water is pouring out from the bottom of the tank, so that it's not airlocked. So I'll leave that open for now. When you put that back on, make sure that it's properly sealed, otherwise you're trying to fill the tank from outside and it's going to try and pressure its way through this seal here, so just make sure that's really tight. Okay, so this is the control panel. Basically this is your on-off switch, so unless that's on you won't get any lights, 12 volt, nothing will operate basically. So that switches your van on basically. This will illuminate if you're plugged into mains electric, which we're not at the moment. So so that's why it's not illuminated. We have internal temperature, external temperature. That's the heated tank, if fitted. So that's illuminated, so that's the heated wastewater tank. This is the leisure batteries situation, so that's illuminating here. So we have, that's how many amps we're drawing. It's showing 11 volts there, but it's because everything's switched on and we've got a draw here, so we've got 11 amps. The engine battery, that's not having a draw across it, so that's showing nearly 13 volts. This is your water situation. So if there was water in the freshwater tank, we'd get a reading up here. This is sorry, that's your wastewater tank, that's your freshwater tank. So it's alerting us that there's nothing in it. So you get a reading here, as with the battery situation. So these LEDs light up to give you an indication onto what your water situation is. That's your water pump, so that must be switched on in order to get water through the system. When you first fill up the water tank with water, you've got to pump the water through that tank, through all the pipe work which I showed you in that service locker, and eventually out of your tap. So what you need to do is open up the tap as it is here, wait for it to gurgle away, and then you'll get a pure flow of water coming out of there. You then know that you've filled up the pipe work and also the boiler. So you need to make sure that it's on hot and cold, you're getting a pure flow of water. Otherwise you'll switch the boiler on and you'll just be heating thin air. You need to make sure that all the water has gone through the pipe work and filled up the boiler. These are just your lights basically, so you can switch the lights individually. There's also light switches here as we enter. There is another set of switches as we go further down the motorhome, which will allow you to switch various lights on and off. The heating system on this is the radiator system. So to switch it on, you just press that button there, and then to get into menu, you just press the menu. That'll allow you to select your temperature. So 22 degrees is room temperature. This is your water temperature. So again, you can select how hot and cold you want the water. Just leave that on hot and then mix it with cold so that you can you've got a lot of warm water. You can select so this is your electric, if you're going to heat well, it's your fuel selection switch really. So that is 1 kilowatt of electric, and then it'll allow you to go up to 3 kilowatts. The reason it does that is if you're on a low ampage site and you don't want to, you'll blow the fuse on the site. So if it's a really low ampage site, then just put it on 1 kilowatt. Most sites in the UK, you're okay with 3 kilowatts of electric. It's not very efficient on electric. It's far better to heat it first on gas, which you do so by pressing that button there. So that's going to heat the van and the water on gas, and you can have a combination of the two. So if you put that on 3 kilowatts and this on gas, it's going to heat up really quick. If you don't want to burn up your gas, then switch the gas off and just allow it to continue on electric. But yeah, the gas will heat it up really quick. You can go in here and select timing settings, etc. But the basic functionality is just on that main menu there. This switch here switches the pump on for that heat exchanger which I talked about in the service locker. So you switch that on, it'll pump the coolant through into the engine. So if you've had this heating on and you've been on site and it's nice and warm, you press this switch, it'll pump that warm coolant through into the engine, so that as soon as you switch the engine on, it shares that warmth with the engine coolant. Moving on then, we have the fridge. This is a three-way fridge, so it'll use 3 different power sources. Best way of using this is just to select the auto function, so it'll automatically select the most relevant power source. So you switch this on. It won't work now because we're not connected to mains or gas, so it'll try and find electric straight away first of all. So it's telling us that we're not plugged in, so there isn't it's not going to work, so it's warning us that we're not connected to electric. Next one, you can select is gas. So you can select gas to run the fridge. It will be just as efficient on electric or gas. Obviously if you're not plugged into mains, then use gas. Next one along is 12 volt. Now that will only work, sorry, this will the battery there is 12 volt. It uses the engine alternator, so basically unless the engine's running it won't work. The reason that's there is to keep this fridge cool while you're traveling. So it's a transit, that's like your transit setting when you're in transit. It will only keep it cool, it won't cool it down. So you need to get it cool first on electric or gas at home or on site, and then switch it over to this when you're traveling. But what I would do is select auto. So if you press this auto button here, it will automatically select the most relevant power source. So it'll try and find electric, then gas, then 12 volt, and that saves you the worry of having to select it yourself. You can select your temperature here. So on a really hot day you want the fridge to work a bit harder, select the most powerful setting, and then on a cold day like today, maybe just this setting, because otherwise it will ice up. That will help defrost the freezer section. I think there's a heating element just under there which will, if you press that, it will melt the ice. So to switch that off, you just keep your finger pressed on that button there. So moving along, we have the toilet cassette in here. To use the toilet, basically this here is connected to that cassette which I showed, so the cassette goes into here. So to use the toilet, you open the valve up, which was on that cassette which I showed you. Open it up, use the toilet, and then press this flush button here. You need the water pump switched on for that to work. When the cassette's full, it will give you a warning here, an LED will light up. So you can actually see down into there, but if you don't want to be looking down there, then that LED will tell you. Just keep this closed when you're moving, because otherwise it'll slosh around, and you don't want toilet waste sloshing around in here. There's a danger it could spill over. So that's how the toilet is operated. This motorhome, the previous owner had a satellite system fitted. It's got 2 televisions and also Wi-Fi fitted. The Wi-Fi is this box here. If you take the back off here like a traditional old mobile phone, that back just unclips. Take the battery out, and then there's a slot for a SIM card. So that's the Wi-Fi system. To operate the satellite dish, you just press that button there, and it'll the satellite dish raises and locks on. It's set to Astra 2, I think now, but that's the UK setting. There's not really much to talk about there. The bed at the back is just above the garage at the back, which you've already covered. Oh, this is the that'll switch on and off the gas regulator that was connected to the gas system, which I showed you in the gas locker. So if you want to switch your gas off, you can do from inside to save you having to go out and switch the taps off. This will just operate individual lighting zones. So you can see there, if I'm pressing that button, it's switching off certain lighting zones. And there's various lighting switches dotted around the van. There'll be one in the bedroom area at the back there where those separate lights are. So that concludes the main functions and instructional video for this particular motorhome. If you've got any questions, as I say, I'll be happy to answer those in the interim between now and collection. If not, I can answer some of your questions maybe on the day that you collect. and we look forward to seeing you on the day that you collect your lovely new Burstner Elegance motorhome.